my name is Christy and I am your homestyle alchemist, and today I want to share with you everything that I knitted in 2024, and I'm really excited because I've always wanted to do that type of video where I talk about all the cool things that I made, or all the things that you make in a year. So let me start with the smaller items first. I started making a lot of hats this year in order to replace about, give or take, 10 hats that I've owned honestly for about 20 years. I don't really do that much shopping. When I shop for clothes in general, even before I start sewing, when I shop for clothes in general, I tend to do 2 big shopping sprees a year, and that'll cover my necessities for most of the year. I'm not really a chronic garment shopper. But the hats that I had for over 20 years, they're starting to show their wear and tear. I'm not quite into that style anymore, and I really wanted an upgrade. So I decided to replace all of my hats by knitting my own. The first thing that I want to share is my obsidian ribbed beanie. And this is actually a self-drafted beanie that I created using the Knit Picks City Tweed yarn. And this one is a worsted weight, it's an Aran yarn. And unfortunately, that particular yarn is being discontinued because I went to go buy more, and this color, obsidian, isn't even available. I think they only have 2 colors left. This one is a simple 2x2 ribbed pattern, and it's a little bit longer, so it can actually be used as, or worn as, a slouchy as well as just a regular beanie. If I were to actually wear it just as a, straight as a beanie, it has like a slight little slouch to it, and that's actually my favorite way to wear knit hats in general. I prefer the slouchy look. Or I can actually fold up the brim and then wear it as a plain beanie. And I love the little tag that I put there, if you can see it. I love adding those little details that personalize the things that you've made. I ended up making actually 2 of these hats because my husband saw me knitting it and he's like, oh wow, I kind of like that. So I made one for him too. And it's super warm. It goes with almost everything that I have because gray is that wonderful color that legit goes with everything. The next item that I want to share is the one that I'm actually wearing, and this is actually one of my favorite hats so far, and I did not expect that to be the case. This particular hat, I made 2 of them. They're also self-drafted, and I call them the blusher beanies, or the blusher slouchy beanie, and I called it blusher because it's named after the mushroom that actually kind of looks like this. These particular hats I made using colors recommended by the owner of my local yarn boutique, and that's kind of, I thought that was a really cool collaboration because I just recently started realizing that I actually like to see what other people recommend as a colorway, and she chose colors that I wouldn't necessarily put together if I were to actually look for the colors on my own. So the yarn that she recommended, they're actually 2 different yarns. One is the Kelborn Woolen Scout, which is like a DK weight yarn, and it's made out of 100% wool. She paired it with the Barocco Ariel, which is a mohair silk blend. So the first one that I'm holding is the first one I made using a 2x2 rib, and it's a slouchy beanie. It's meant to be worn as a slouchy beanie, so it is significantly longer than my obsidian rib beanie. And this one was knit in Kelborn Woolen's Scout in Autumn Heather. It's like a beautiful green with a lot of rust colors and a slight little pink kind of woven in between. And then the Barocco Ariel that I bought, the mohair, is called Poppy, and it's like a pink. It's a very subtle neutral pink, and when knit together I got this really cool just kind of silken green, pink, autumn, rusty orange color. And it looks a little bit, maybe a little dull on camera, but in person the color is much more vibrant. So I'll add a few pictures of the hat where it's a lot more vibrant. The second hat I made using her color recommendations is made with the Kelborn Woolen Scout in Ocean Heather, which is like a teal blue. And then I paired it with the Barocco Ariel in Cherry. And this hat, I get a lot of compliments on this one. I actually thought that I would be wearing this one a lot more, and I wore this already quite a bit. It's kind of stretched at the edges a little bit, but I was surprised at how much this one actually fits my wardrobe more than this one. So I've actually gotten a lot of wear out of the ocean heather and red. I didn't think it'd look nice to pair teal heathery or teal blue or teal heather or oceany heather with a dark cherry red. These particular yarns go super well together. It creates this really nice draping effect, and the actual feel and texture is so soft. It feels so nice against the skin, and it feels rather luxurious. This is the type of hat that I would definitely set aside a couple of dollars to purchase the yarns, because they're not cheap. I'm admitting they are pretty expensive yarns, but this kind of yarn also knits up into a very delicate yet sturdy and luxurious feeling piece. So I highly recommend it. The next hat that I want to share, I'm super proud of this one. I also have been wearing this quite a bit too. I call it my diamond dust beanie, and it was actually inspired by a Pinterest post that I found featuring a hat that's originally from Torrid. And this hat from Torrid doesn't exist anymore. It's been discontinued, it's been out for a while, but I realized I could make something like this. So I created my own in black instead of gray, and it's literally a ribbed beanie with little rhinestone studs. I snagged the brooches from Etsy. And I also added this really nice little palm at the top piece sticking out. It's a little yarn flyaway. This is an appropriate hat to have for right now because it is snowing, and it never snows where I live, so it matches the winter vibe, you know? This one was so fun to make, and it's even more fun to wear. I actually wear it a lot going to work, and I'll step outside, get into my car, and I just love watching the rainbows just glitter across the ceiling of the car, across the walls, and across the room every time I walk. It's a very eye-catching piece, and I love how you can actually take out the rhinestones. These are not glued in. You can actually remove them and replace them however you want and change how the hat sits on your head. These little guys, next time I'll do a better job gluing them in. They're glued in using fabric glue, and what I should have done was glued them directly onto the knit rib, so you can see that here. Here I kind of ended up gluing two of the ribs together so they kind of mesh in when they're not supposed to, but that's an easy fix. When I feel like it, I will rearrange the rhinestones, but I think it's one of those things where if you don't mention it, people aren't going to notice it. This hat was knitted using the Lion brand Wool Ease worsted weight yarn, and that's usually my go-to synthetic natural blend yarn for most projects. It's very durable, it's machine washable, and it's very accessible. You can find the Wool Ease yarn in practically any craft store, and it actually doesn't pill all too often, which is a plus when it comes to synthetic yarns. So I will probably be making a pattern for all of these hats that I have eventually. Don't know when they're going to come out. I'm going to try to have them come out by the end of January or February, but I will be linking patterns on homestylealchemy.com. This way, if you want to make your own version of this Torrid hat or any of the blusher beanies and slouchies, you can just go to my site and they'll be available for free. This next one is a personal favorite, and it's one of my cat's favorites too. This is the Amanda sweater, and the pattern's from Wool and the Gang, and it was knitted with the Crazy Sexy wool in eucalyptus. I love eucalyptus. It's one of my favorite colors, and all it is a knitted sweater with a round neckline, and it's got seed stitch woven all throughout with kind of balloony sleeves. This one was a very fun and quick make that took me about, I want to say, a month off and on. I knitted it in between a different project because I have quite a few more challenging knits that I'm trying to complete, and because they can be challenging and you need a break from time to time, I will occasionally make a big chunky sweater like this just to kind of break up all the work and make me feel not quite so burnt out as I'm trying to finish the more complicated knits. This one is made with a single ply yarn, which I know is kind of polarizing in the knitting and fiber community, because single ply chunky yarn tends to not last as long. It's very quick to pill, very quick to mat, and very quick to felt. But considering that this is my second Wool in the Gang jumble sweater, I did find a way to make it work. If you are concerned about the pilling and felting in these kinds of sweaters, and it is kind of inevitable, I highly recommend that you get yourself an electric pill remover. They look like this, and they have a few switches and settings. And what you would typically do is lay your piece down flat, and then you're going to turn it on and just remove all the little pills right off of your sweater. I think this is a necessary piece to have regardless of what kind of clothing you own. It works really well. All the lint gets collected and gets put into this little cavity right here. You take it off and then you empty it into the trash bin and you're good to go. Another way that you can make your single ply chunky wool sweaters last longer is to wear them as the top layer of your outfit. So I don't recommend wearing these underneath a jacket or coat. Wear it as a top layer so that you have nothing rubbing against your beautiful pattern as you're going about your day. I find that wearing it as a top layer is the most effective way of preserving all those stitches. The best times to wear projects like these is during a pretty brisk, chilly day where you want something to keep you warm, but you also don't need it to be so warm that's going to make you hot and sweaty and uncomfortable. I actually like to wear these as a replacement for jackets. So I would say that I'm more likely to wear my chunky oversized sweaters if I'm going to be out and about and it's about 30 degrees outside, maybe tops 45 degrees. These actually keep me extremely comfortable because they are so easy to just throw on. They go with most of my clothes and they actually regulate my body temperature very well. So even though you're going outside and it's 35 degrees out and you've got this particular garment on, if you go into a building, let's say you pop into a cafe or something, you're going to find that you're still just as comfortable because wool has that very magical element or characteristic of being able to regulate your body temperature so you don't overheat, but you're also staying warm when you have to. This next piece is something I'm so proud of, and it is, it's kind of big actually. It is my Littlewoods Aran, and it's a vintage pattern from I think the 1980s, possibly the early 90s. And it is an Aran cardigan that I knitted 2 sizes too large, but I wanted it to be oversized because I really want that blanket effect. This particular piece was made using Taki Yarn's Donegal tweed. I absolutely adore tweed. I love the different variations in color, and I'm kind of a sucker for cream and beige and oatmeal, those type of colors. They're so warm and neutral, they go with everything. And this one is 100% wool. It's not as soft as my Scout and my Barocco Ariel hats, and it's not as soft as the Crazy Sexy wool, but that's okay because this is actually meant to be an outerwear piece, kind of like with my Amanda sweater. I wear this as an alternative to a coat or jacket because it's that warm. One of the things that I'm also the most proud of is the fact that I took a lot of time swatching this particular piece and looking for the perfect set of buttons. And look how gorgeous they are. I get most of my buttons from an Etsy shop called Lionwood, and these are a Japanese inspired wooden button with these really intricate floral carvings. And the buttons just have this slight curve on the inside, giving it this really interesting effect. And the finish is like a lacquer. It's very, very shiny dark brown. This piece took me oh my gosh, about a year to knit. And I did it off and on because it was just a lot. This is the biggest knit I've ever made. And I actually probably should have gone a couple of sizes smaller, even though I did intend it to be an oversized fit. So I salute the plus size ladies that have the stamina to knit garments, because I was getting kind of overwhelmed with how many stitches went into this, even though the end result was totally worth it. This next piece was super fun, and it was another quick chunky knit that I could make in between more complicated projects. And this is the Colorblock Cardi by the Bluebird Pine Shop. And I got this off of Etsy, but it's also available on Ravelry. And this was supposed to be a scrap cardigan, but I didn't quite have the colors I wanted, so I did end up buying a couple of colors. The original one actually does not have buttons, and it only consists of 2 colors, but I really wanted to use 3 colors. So I chose the Woolies Lion Brand, Lion Brand Woolies Thick and Quick yarn in, not fern, what was it called? I think it's called kale. Yeah, it's called kale. So I have it in kale, and then I have the same yarn in oatmeal, which is one of my absolute favorite colors. And then I have the same yarn in fisherman, which is that classic Irish Aran color for sweaters. And the original Cardi, again, does not have buttons, so I added my own. And I love buttons. I prefer to have buttons in my cardigans. So if a pattern does not come with a button band, I will tend to add it myself. These particular buttons were so exciting to me because they are so funky looking. They have like this kind of bohemian retro vibe, and they are coconut buttons with all these unique different colors woven in. And I found them to be the perfect fit for this cardigan. And interestingly enough, these buttons, it took me 7 years to find enough to have 4. I know that sounds insane, but I actually bought these buttons. Attracted me about 7 years ago, and there were only 2 in the shop. So I bought them, and I had no idea what I was going to use them for, but I was like, I need them in my life. I don't know where I'm going to put them. I don't know how I'm going to use them, but I need these buttons. 7 years later, as I was planning for this cardigan, because I didn't know what kind of buttons I was going to use, I happened to find the same buttons, and again, just a pack of 2. And I knitted this in the summer of 2024. It's now January 2025, and I still have not seen those buttons again. So maybe these buttons come out every 7 years. I have no idea, but I'm glad I found them. They're so pretty, and I love to wear this kind of cardigan again as a jacket. This final piece is my favorite knit make of the year, and probably my favorite make of the year period. And it is the Dotty cardigan. The Dotty cardigan from All About Ami, and the pattern designer, her name is Stephanie Lau. And this one is just so beautiful and dear to my heart. And it almost broke my heart because I actually felted it by accident. The same owner that recommended the colors for my blusher hats, she recommended the Kelborn Woolens Germantown chunky wool, and it is just so beautiful. It's not extremely soft, but it's soft for 100% wool. I actually really like that. The color I chose is olive. It took me about, I want to say, a month and a half, no more than 2 months to knit. And it's this dot stitch pattern that you can actually put together very quickly. This is a quick knit, even though it doesn't look like it. And of course, I've got pockets. You gotta have pockets, right? And then for the button band, because again, originally it did not have buttons in the pattern, but I must have buttons. I got these really beautiful wooden buttons with this really nice carving going all the way around it. I got the buttons from Lionwood again. Love that place for buttons. And something that really attracts me to these style buttons, it really has that Skyrim effect. This is obviously not an authentic Celtic symbol or design. It just kind of reminds me of that. This cardigan nearly broke my heart because when I went to go wash it as routine, I always wash any of my pieces after I've knitted them so that I can block them and shape them, especially since most of the pieces I knit are made with 100% wool. This one ended up stretching way too much. And my usual fix is to pop it in the dryer for about for about 10 minutes in 2 to 3 drying bursts, right? And I forgot it was in the dryer because I went to go clean the house after I threw it in the dryer. And so my baby felt it a little bit. Actually, no, it felt it a lot. And you can see it felted quite a bit under the arms. But here's the good news. The good news is that it fits better than it did before it was felted. And it also did not lose too much of its stitch definition. That's usually my fear when it comes to intentionally shrinking pieces. I always worry about the stitch definition. And for those of you who are wondering, like, well, you ding dong, why did you put your knit into a dryer? Well, the reason is because it's actually a tried and true technique for slightly shrinking your wool garments, and if you do it correctly, it doesn't have a damaging effect on your pieces. For example, I actually did have to shrink my Littlewoods Aran just a little bit, and it did work, and it fits better than if I had gone and blocked this without shrinking it just a little bit. And no felting has occurred. It looks really good. The cables still pop up. It's still a very nice knit. In the future, I do plan on knitting the Dotty cardigan again, but in a different color. And the next time that I go and plan to shrink it just a little bit, I will make sure that I remember not to forget pieces that are in the dryer next time. Thank you for watching my little recap on everything that I've made this year in terms of knitwear. And it's really exciting to just take a step back and reflect on all the cool pieces that you've made over the years. This year, I'm really proud of these particular mates because I actually put in a lot of effort and intention behind the yarn choice, the pattern choice, the color choices. The thing about making your own clothes, it's all about experimentation and being drawn to the things that actually make you feel more confident, that make you feel like yourself. And this is the first time where I've knitted pieces that actually reflect my style, because my past pieces I've been knitting for about 15 years, and my past pieces just don't ring as true to me as the pieces that I made in 2024. And so I'm looking forward to sticking to my instincts, sticking to my gut when it comes to picking out colors, when it comes to finding a design. And I'm trying to learn how to not be afraid of those more complicated patterns. And I know I'm a fairly intermediate knitter, and I really want to now focus on more designs that have more cables, designs that have lace, designs that have more structure. Because as wonderful as it was to make chunky knits like this, and this was really fun to make. This Amanda sweater, highly recommend if you're a beginner. As fun as this was to make, I think, I won't say never because my husband says never say never, and he's right, because I'll say never do this, I'll never do that, and then I end up doing it the next year. But I think for now, I'm going to set chunky knits to the side because they're not as fulfilling to me. They're not as fulfilling to create anymore because I really want something with a little bit more interest, something with a little bit more structure, something with a more complicated design. And I think that's why I really enjoyed the Dotty cardigan so much, and why I enjoyed my Littlewoods Aran so much. So thank you for watching my little recap again. And if you want to see more knitting stuff, craft stuff, any kind of artsy stuff in the future, please rate, drop a like, subscribe. Please put a little comment in the comment section. If you saw this video to the end, put a little skull emoji in the comment section, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.